Welcome to Inside the Skev, and I'm your host, Aaron Masliansky. Today, I am so excited to speak with Ross Gordon. Ross is a serial entrepreneur who has taken Skevinston by storm. Ross is the founder of CatchCo, a digitally native sport fishing brand that began as a subscription service called Mystery Tackle Box in 2012. Today, CatchCo sells millions of fishing lures every year through their Mystery Tackle Box subscription, e-commerce platform, and retail partners like Walmart and Dick's Sporting Goods. Ross also previously founded Evanston's own Craft Jack, a marketing and SaaS company and for home improvement contractors. So, Ross, thank you so much for being here today, joining here. I see if you're watching this on YouTube, it looks like Ross is actually out there fishing right now.
It's all an illusion. It's all an illusion. Yeah.
I don't know.
I wish.
It's virtual.
If there was any place I'd rather be besides fishing, it's doing a podcast with you, Aaron. So I'm super excited.
Thank
I
you.
don't think I would have ever anticipated the phrase "taking Skevinston by storm" would be part of the bio, but I'm excited, and I guess I'll try to own it as best I can.
Well, you should. I mean, you are well known here in this community where everyone knows that you're an entrepreneur, and what you've done has been super successful. We actually we got to know each other playing basketball in the Yeshiva Alumni Basketball League, where you were the commissioner for many, many years. And we've talked a lot of basketball, but unfortunately that's not going on right now. But you are killing it in business. And, you started this business here. And I remember talking with you about it a few years ago where you had a few thousand people, then you had about like 20,000 people subscribing, and now it is a large business. So how did it start, and what gave you the idea to create a mystery tackle box company?
Yeah, it's been a crazy ride. We started off as Mystery Tackle Box. Today, as you mentioned, we do a lot more than that. We just actually started celebrating our 8-year anniversary this month. We were posting on social media a bunch of memories and some promotions we have, but it's been 8 years since I started the company. And I actually started the company. You mentioned one of the other companies I started called Craft Jack, which was a lead gen company for home improvement contractors. That company was acquired by another company called Home Advisor. And so as I was thinking about what to do next, Mystery Tackle Box was an idea that I kind of had in the back of my mind for a year or two prior, because I grew up fishing. I grew up in Minnesota, so fishing was something I loved doing as a kid. There were 3 lakes within 10 minutes of my house. So I'd fish all the time as a kid. I moved to Chicago for high school. I went to boarding school. Then I was out of state for college. So I kind of stopped fishing for a good 10 years just because of lack of access to it.
Right.
And when I moved back to Chicago, I got married relatively young after college. So I had a bit more time on my hands, kind of living on the outskirts of the city, and just started to think about how much I missed fishing. And so I started to go to Montrose Harbor on Sunday mornings. I'd wake up before sunrise, go with a couple buddies. I'd go with our mutual friend, Noah Mishkin. We'd grab a cigar. We'd kind of sit there and catch perch in the harbors, and just started to get into fishing again for the first time in 10 years. And as I got more into fishing, I started to get into bass fishing, which is something I did a little bit of as a kid, but not a ton. And bass fishing just kind of took over everything I wanted to do. I started to get all this fancy gear, and I'd go spend all this time shopping for tackle and try to learn all the ins and outs of all the different techniques and ways you could fish for bass. I kind of went deep down the rabbit hole, but the deeper I got, the more overwhelmed and confused I became with all the different products and techniques and where to fish and how to fish. And it's something that there's a little bit of a barrier of entry to kind of get into. There's a learning curve. And so I got overwhelmed. And so I had this idea to basically find a way to simplify that process. How as a consumer did I want to learn about fishing? And I thought it'd be super cool if somebody just sent me a handful of new products every month that were specific for the time of year, specific for the species I was fishing towards. And then more importantly, gave me the content and tips on how to use them, and gave me the components I needed to use them together. Because oftentimes if you go into a tackle shop, you buy a lure, you need a specific size hook for that lure. There's a lot you have to know. I wanted someone to simplify that. So I actually thought somebody had to be doing it. So I was trying to find something to sign up for myself. And when nobody was doing it, I was just this is a cool idea, but I was running Craft Jack, so I was kind of sitting on it. And when I sold that company, that's when I basically jumped in and started Mystery Tackle Box out of a garage.
That's really the way that entrepreneurs figure out when there's a need, when you try to find something for yourself and you realize that it doesn't exist. And then you can fill that need for the consumer, right?
Yeah, I think there's two paths I've seen. Like one is the, oh, there's a cool business opportunity, I can make a lot of money, let me go do this, and people do that. But then there's exactly what you said. There's, I would love to do something, this is for myself. And I find when that happens, you're starting a project because you're passionate about it and you're so much more motivated, and then it becomes enjoyable, and you really, you know, it wants, you put all your focus into it. My previous company, Craft Jack, was started for the other reason. Like I didn't have anything to do with home improvement contracting. I was a really good internet marketer. I figured out some digital way to basically do a lead gen business. I got good at it. I was making money, and so I did it. But when it came time to stick with the company, I just realized I wasn't passionate about it. And that's when I got into fishing. And it's like, I haven't looked back. It's been amazing.
How did you learn to get so good at marketing? I mean, what did you do previous to starting your own company?
Yeah, so I started my career at a very small web design firm here, actually based in Lincolnwood, right around the corner from us. It was on Lincoln and Toohey. It was called InfoTube, and it was like a 7 or 8 person company. My friend's older brother was one of the main guys there. Main guys were 7 guys, but he was one of the partners. And so I got a job there interning. But when I was there, I learned the ins and outs of like how websites were made. This is back in 2005. So how the ins and outs of the web design process. I was an English major in college with a marketing minor. But I've always been like into creative writing, and I wanted to go into copywriting and advertising. I couldn't get a job at a big agency, so I worked at a small firm, was there for a year and a half, really started to understand the world of digital marketing. But then I got a job at Leo Burnett on their digital marketing team, which is a big agency. I got a junior level position there. I transitioned into the creative team. And so I was working on things like branding campaigns, website design, banner ads for brands like Purina, General Motors, a bunch of consumer brands. But on the side, I started to focus on affiliate marketing, which is effectively selling other people's products on the internet for a commission. So you could send people to Amazon, and Amazon will give you a commission. Or in my case, I was doing a lot of lead gen. So the company that actually ended up buying Craft Jack was a company called Home Advisor. At the time, they were Service Magic. They would pair people with home improvement contractors. And so if you sent them a lead for a homeowner who's looking for a contractor, they pay you like $10 or whatever it was.
Yeah.
I got really good at figuring out like how to generate those leads through Google search ads and through, you know, just online advertising. And I would generate them for $8 and sell them for $10. So I'd make a little bit of margin. And I just spent all my time just learning the ins and outs of like every online ad platform I could find. And so I got really good at online marketing because I was basically putting my own money at risk to figure out a way to get the leads for cheaper. So you have to like figure out every trick in the book, like, you know, optimizing your stuff. And so that's kind of how I got into the world of affiliate marketing and digital marketing, between my creative background and then some of the actual technical background. Those two things have worked really well for me in my career.
Oh, for sure. And there's a ton of money in lead generation. I know as a real estate agent, I'm always getting calls from places to sell me leads. And when I worked at a moving company, it was the same thing. They'd always be calling, and it's a considerable amount of money that you have to give up in order to get that lead, but it's, you know, worthwhile for the vendor. So when you take that experience and now, you know, with this company, you know, your marketing is very unique. It's I mean, if anyone goes on YouTube and just looks up Mystery Tackle Box, you know, there's some really funny videos there. And I see that as kind of a trend in some of the subscription service products that are out there. But how did you come up with that? Do you work with other people to do that? Who produces that?
Yeah, so you'll see over my shoulder here, there's a character off in the distance. That's actually our mascot, Carl Von Dibble.
Well, he's higher than you on your organization chart, right?
Yeah, well, he's the CFO, Chief Fishing Officer. There is a video that kind of shows how he came into power, but there's a funny backstory there. But in terms of like marketing strategy, so I've always been into humor. You know, when I was an English major in college, I wrote a lot of humorous stuff. When I was in high school, I was a writer for the high school newspaper, and I'd always write like the satirical articles that made fun of the school. I was a writer for the high school Purim spiel that we worked on. So comical writing has always been something I've been interested in. And so when I started this company and I was trying to think of an angle to be different, everyone takes fishing very seriously. All the bigger brands in our space are very serious brands. You know, you have Bass Pro Shops and Cabela's, and there's nothing wrong with that. And they're very aspirational, but at some point they all start to sound the same. They're talking about the great outdoors, and I just wanted to be different and kind of cut through the noise. And also, we were one of the first companies to launch through social media. Most of the other fishing companies have been around for years, if not decades. And within social media, I was I understood the meme culture. I understood the Reddit, the subreddits, and like what type of content would get distributed. And a lot of the humor content plays really well online. And so when I started the company, it was me and two co-founders, and I was doing all the marketing. I was just basically saying, like, how can we make this funny? And so the character Carl we created was actually a spoof of the most famous professional bass fisherman at the time. His name was Kevin Van Dam. He was like the Michael Jordan of bass fishing. He won all of the tournaments, and he sponsored all the products. We had all the logos on his jersey. And so we were this, bootstrap startup with no money. We couldn't pay a real professional pro. So my idea was like, well, let's just make fun of that whole concept and create this goofy pro called the other KVD, Carl Von Dibble, who was like Kevin Van Dam. And we made these funny videos, and they got featured on TechCrunch, and they kind of went a little bit viral. And so that was the catalyst for like, okay, we're onto something here. This is different. And Carl became the mascot for Mystery Tackle Box. And as we grew, he would become more and more popular. People would start to recognize him at trade shows. People were asking for his autograph.
That's
more so
awesome.
Professional fishermen who were in the same trade show. And so we built this icon. And as we started to grow the business and move beyond the tackle subscription and into e-commerce, we launched a site called Carl's Bait and Tackle. So we used him as our mascot for e-commerce to like build the internet's local tackle shop. And so Carl's become a huge part of our content. We always use him, but generally humor has become. So I started it, but as the company's grown, and I'm not currently writing social media posts that often, we've hired some really, really funny people. So now our head social media content manager, his name is Brett Ford, but he's become his own influencer, so to speak, within our social media profiles. He's in a lot of our content. He has a nickname called MTB Hat Guy because he always wears a hat that says MTB on it. This all came about organically, just from like how we engage on social media. And now we go to trade shows and he's signing autographs. And he was
That's
just like
amazing.
a manager. And now he's a part of our content. He's in a lot of our skits. We hired someone, might have been close to a year ago. Time flies at this point. Beginning of the year, someone out of school, her name is Brittany, and she manages our TikTok. And now she's becoming like the face of our TikTok brand, and people are asking her for autographs at shows. So like, we're taking our team members. We find really funny people who are just doing an amazing job, a way better job than I could ever do at building this content. And we give them ownership over it, and we kind of let them put themselves out there. And it's just been a really cool, authentic way to grow the brand.
Where do you find them? Do you like at improv or just
No,
online somewhere?
honestly, I found Brett, like it was just a normal like job application process for a content marketing manager. Literally, his cover letter was the only cover letter I was literally laughing out loud as I was reading it. And I was just like, wow, this guy is hysterical. Like, and he was making funny references to some of the videos that we had made that I had written. So I knew that he understood the brand. He was like, just making jokes about some of the content we had made. I'm like, this guy's just hilarious, and he gets the brand, and it was unique. And so he was the first one I brought on, and he was the one who hired Brittany. I don't know how, it was just through a regular job application process, but like we asked people to like give us examples of content and kind of, feel out that they're a good culture fit. And we've just done a really good job at that.
Does Carl actually work in your office, or is he just an actor?
Yeah, I know. I'm hesitant to like give too many of the details behind Carl because I don't know where this interview is going to. So a high level backstory on Carl. So his real name is not Carl. He's an actor. His name is Derek. He did a video for CraftJack for my last company. He owns a film production company. So he filmed a video for CraftJack that I had written, another funny, humorous video. I don't think we actually ever published it, but the video was hilarious. He was hilarious. I found him because he had created a group with a bunch of his friends out of college called Distract Chicago. And they did improv stuff at like Improv Olympic, and it was a bunch of actors, but they started filming these short little sketch comedy videos that I stumbled across on YouTube back in 2010. And I just thought they were hilarious. And so when I had this idea for the CraftJack video, I reached out to them. And then when I had this idea for Carl, I was like, Derek, you have to be Carl. Like he kind of reminds a lot of people of Zach Galifianakis, and
yes.
Like he's got a really unique humor and style. And so his film production company actually films a lot of the content that they end up shooting for us. He by trade is a director slash cinematographer. So he does a lot of that. He helps us write the scripts. Now we write a lot of the stuff with him. He's not actually an employee of the company, but he's, an actor and does a lot of the stuff with us.
Well, it's such a major part of your business. I mean, do you think that you have a competitive advantage over some of these other brick and mortars right now, especially during the pandemic?
Well, for a couple of reasons, one, we were focused on e-commerce. So when stores started to close down early on in COVID, we saw a huge surge in our business, because fishing is something that you can do socially distanced. More people now are fishing than ever before. There's actually records in nearly every state for fishing license sales right now because
Really?
it's one of those things. Yeah, it's crazy. I have more of our friends have reached out to me in the past 4 months asking me questions about how to get started fishing than in the previous 4 years. Like, it's been nuts. So that was good. And then the fact that we were e-commerce. So we've had that advantage, but our brand, because we also are so engaged with our community online through social media, people are spending more time on social now, more time engaging with content. So it's definitely been an advantage for us to like create that relationship with our customers. And it's just different. Like, nobody else is doing this. It's hard to replicate. It's hard to be funny authentically.
Right.
If you're Bass Pro Shops, you can't be funny. It's just not going to happen, right? If you're Cabela's, if you're Dick's Sporting Good, like all these traditional stores, it's really hard for them to be funny in an authentic way. This is how we built our brand. It's our team that's leading this. We didn't hire some marketing agency to tell us how to be funny. Like, it's just who we are.
Right. It's your ethos.
It just, and we're fun, like, we just have a fun culture, and that shows up in our brand. And so that's a big part of our strategy. I can't say that I thought about it up front. Like, it just kind of became natural, but looking back on it and now where I see where we are, it's like a complete competitive advantage in that sense.
How many people are subscribing to your service?
So we don't share our subscriber numbers publicly, but we have, well over 100,000 subscribers now getting boxes every month. But we also sell our boxes in Dick's Sporting Goods, in Walmart. So like in the next 12 months, we're going to probably ship close to 2.5 million boxes across all of our different channels. So it's been pretty crazy.
How does that work to be able to put together the the product? You're based in Chicago. I guess one question is everyone working remotely from your office anyway right now? And then how do you work with like who the manufacturers of what your product is?
Yeah, so we prior to COVID, we had about, I'd say 70% of our workforce was based in Chicago, and then 30% was remote. So we already have like a remote culture for a portion of our company. All of our whole web development team is remote. They're all based in the US, but they're remote. Like, our CTO is based in California. Even our developers who live in Chicago mostly work from home. So that part was remote. We've had other team members who've moved out of Chicago, but they've still work with us. So when COVID hit, we already had a lot of the tools in place to accommodate. We use Slack for all of our online communications, Google Hangouts, Zoom, all that stuff came natural to us. Certainly, there is some value to just being able to go in a conference room with some people and whiteboard something, and that's obviously been a challenge. Also, we deal with a lot of physical product development, prototyping. So that's been the most challenging part of being remote, is not being able to be in a room. We do have a warehouse out in Downers Grove. It's not a warehouse, it's like a product testing facility that our team has been going out to. We keep it to fewer than 3 people at a time. We have like a big swimming pool there where we can test products.
So you have fish in there and everything?
No, it's just more to like check the physics and the action and stuff like that. We have like a painting station and a prototyping station, 3D printers. So like we have to go there. But otherwise, it's certainly been a challenge. Like, we have products that have just been delayed because a lot of our stuff is manufactured. Some of it's manufactured in China. So supply chain issues, ability to get stuff over here quickly when there's no air freight. Wow. All of that stuff has been a major headache. Also, all the factories, China had COVID, before we did, and they were closed for 2 months before we were closed. And it was right after Chinese New Year. So like, we were coming out of Chinese New Year, then all the factories were closed for 2 months. So we were already like low on inventory before COVID hit. So that's been the craziest part of the whole, COVID thing is trying to deal with our supply chain and some of that. We do manufacture some of our stuff in the US. Even that, there's been challenges around that. So on one hand, we're having an amazing growth, through a very difficult time, and a lot of people are experiencing the opposite. We're very fortunate. But it's been a struggle to keep up with the supply chain and meet the demand, and shipping times are delayed. So customers are getting frustrated. Like, everything's just been a little bit of a challenge on that front.
Yeah, I can imagine. And being able to create new products, it probably, like you said, it presents new challenges. One of the things that I see on your website is that you have Biospawn. It's baits genetically engineered to catch more fish. What is that about?
Yeah, so that's Biospawn is actually a company I started with a friend of mine back in 2013. His name is Gabe Prero. He's a product designer. So I had already started Mystery Tackle Box. I was still kind of working at Craft Jack, in my earnout period before I left. And he approached me and said, "Hey, I'm thinking about starting something in product design. I don't know what to do." And I said, "Well, I have this fishing subscription box. If you want to start a fishing lure company with me, we can get some distribution." And again, like, we wanted to come up with something different. We didn't want to just make a brand that we thought would be like everything else. And so we started thinking about what kind of brand is going to appeal to younger consumers, modern anglers, people who grew up playing video games like Halo and like that type of stuff. So we started brainstorming, and the idea behind Biospawn was to create this like sci-fi futuristic brand and like this dystopian future where like you could take the organisms that fish eat and like genetically modify them into like futuristic shapes that would like make them more appealing to the fish. So it's kind of like this funny backstory we created for the brand. And it was totally different. And so genetically engineered baits was like the tagline.
Yeah.
And then there's a disclaimer in the back of the package that says baits don't actually have genes, just to play it safe. So again, it was like a tongue-in-cheek, kind of humorous, but kind of cool approach to do something different. And that brand like has had a ton of success. It got some early retail distribution. It still sells very well, like on our e-commerce site. But again, it was just kind of like trying to take a different approach to an industry that's been doing something the same way for so long. We just said, let's just try something different and see where it goes.
Yeah. Well, it's such a basic, fishing is so old school. It's as old school as you can get, right?
Yeah.
I mean, have companies that have been in the business for many, many years contacted you, or, with either compliments or critique about what you're doing and how it's affected the industry?
Yeah, it's been interesting. We work with, when we started Mystery Tackle Box, we were not making any of our own products. So it was just third-party products. And we would try to get brands to work with us, and it was very difficult early on. Nobody took us seriously. People are like, why would anybody want to get random fishing lures? Fishing is a very specific thing. People have things they want to use. We weren't big enough. So like, it was really hard to get people to pay attention the first 2 or 3 years. As we started to grow, I think people started to catch on, and then we had brands started to approach us. Hey, can we get our products in your boxes? How can we work with you? And so we have relationships with a lot of the other manufacturers in the space. At some point, as we continue to grow, we realize that the bigger that business gets, the harder it is for us to coordinate all these products with all these different manufacturers every month, and do that efficiently and cost effectively. And we also realized that in talking to customers, like a lot of customers just were looking for new and fun brands to try. And we thought that based on our insights with the customer relationship that we had, that we could create some fun and cool differentiated stuff for a portion of the boxes. But we knew we never wanted to make the boxes like 100% our own products, because part of the fun is getting stuff from all these different companies. So we decided to launch some of our own brands. If we thought we could do it in a unique and fun way, whether it was like Biospawn, we have a brand called 10,000 Fish. We have some stuff we collaborate with big YouTube influencers, but we still work with a lot of the other companies in the space. It's a little bit of an interesting position, because on one hand, we compete with them because we sell our products in stores. But on the other hand, we're a great marketing partner for them, because at the end of the day, if you put your products in 100,000+ mystery tackle boxes and people try it, and the portion of them love it, they're going to come back and buy more. And we've proven that out for 8 years of our company. And we see that with our own products. And so we try to be a great partner to everyone as best we can. We try to be as transparent with everyone. They know we make our own baits. Retailers know we have an e-commerce site. Like we are kind of helping everyone and also competing with everyone. But at the
Right.
end of the day, the way that I phrase it is like our end goal is to serve the consumer, right? We have to do what's best for the customer in this category, the people who are the anglers. And if we think we can create an e-commerce experience that's meaningfully different and no one else is doing it, we're going to do it because we think that that serves the customer. If we think we have an idea for a product or a brand that's exciting and is going to serve the consumer, we're going to do that because that's ultimately who we answer to.
Mm-hmm.
And so some of the other stuff just ends up being noise. And I always try to focus the company like, we have to do what's right for the consumer. Everything else will work itself out. We'll be transparent. We'll help everyone as best we can, but the consumer is what matters most.
I think that's what usually translates into success for any type of company in any industry. Focus on
Absolutely.
the consumer.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, CatchCo is the overarching company that includes like all these other companies that you have that are for the different products, right?
Yeah. So CatchCo is like the master brand. But CatchCo is the parent company for Mystery Tackle Box, for Carl's Bait and Tackle, for Biospawn, 10,000 Fish, a number of those brands as well.
Yeah.
We also create content, by the way. Like we have a YouTube series called Uncharted, which is a long form fishing exploration. It's a really fun. Basically, we take our YouTube influencers, we send them to a destination. They explore through fishing, but they also explore like local restaurants and local landmarks, and they do it while competing for charity. So they have like different challenges they have to do. That's on YouTube. That series has done really well for us. We actually just put a couple of episodes on Amazon Prime.
Really?
So content is a huge part of what we're trying to do under the CatchCo kind of umbrella.
Will you do content for other companies besides the CatchCo companies?
We will feature them in our content. So, for example, Uncharted is a great example. One of our partners on Uncharted was a company called Mercury Marine, which is one of the the biggest outboard motor company in the world. They were amazing partners with us to help us get that series off the ground. They helped fund some of the production, so they will sponsor it. But they'll also have some of the assets that they can put on their social media. But generally, like we're not like a production company where someone will hire us, pay us to make content that they then go own. We create content for ourselves, and we try to find the right partners to like feature in our content.
That makes sense, man. It's like you're in so many different arenas, but all within the fishing space. But you're able to help a lot of people throughout here. I mean, have you like built like a giant network that you know any of these people before you started this 8 years ago, right?
Yeah, I had no connections in the fishing industry at all. Now it's amazing. I mean, I've met some really, really amazing people in this industry, whether it's people who run other companies that are just incredibly smart or forward thinking or have just been great people to work with. People at retailers, manufacturers, people overseas at factories. Like I've just met a ton of really awesome people. I've met some not awesome people too, as I'm sure everyone, goes through. But it's been crazy kind of coming into a space that I literally knew nothing about. I've had some really strong mentors along the way who've helped me kind of break in and made introductions, and that's been helpful too.
It is very cool to meet a lot of people that maybe you never had the opportunity to. And I see that the NBA they're having in the bubble now, they have the NBA bass fishing all-stars, because all around Disney, they're stocked with bass fish from when Disney World was built. Have you been in touch with any of those NBA players, or what's going on there?
I'm actually glad you asked me this question. Believe it or not, we actually have been. We have a number of professional athletes who follow us on social media and actually like will engage on our posts, like who are into fishing. So this is a funny story. Paul George is one of the guys who's been in a lot of the articles. He loves fishing, huge angler. He follows our Mystery Tackle Box account on Instagram. He's sent us DMs in the past, like with questions about fishing.
Wow.
And so when we saw that they were fishing, we DM'd Paul George and we're like, hey, can we send you some fishing gear? And he responded and he gave us like the address to send it to. So we sent him a care package. Lance Thomas as well. We sent a care package. And then also Ben Simmons is a part owner in an esports team. And I'm friendly with the other guy who started that esports team. He's connected to some of the fishing influencers. He's actually was a subscriber of Mystery Tackle Box back in the day. He's from Chicago.
Wow.
He started a company called Optic Gaming, which was like the first competitive Call of Duty team. His name is Hector. He's a big angler. So I go back with him. he's friends with Ben Simmons. So he's like, hey, can we get Ben Simmons some fishing gear? So like, yeah, we've had a couple connections to some of the athletes in the bubble to get them fishing gear. And it's been really cool to see like how these worlds have collided with like fishing and professional sports. It's been wild.
It's amazing. I mean, I think it would be pretty cool to actually have like a tournament.
We've talked about doing like some kind of charity fishing tournament or something with some of these guys.
Yeah. Would you go down there if they needed you to be in the bubble?
If I get to stay in the bubble, yeah, I mean, just give me a quick swab, make sure I'm clean, and I just hang out there for a couple of weeks. Yeah,
that'd be a hell of a basketball league to play with.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah. No, I saw that like in the past couple of days of what's going on as I was preparing for this interview, and it was just I had no idea that Disney had set that up for years. I mean, is that something that you've been in touch with Disney about? Because do they want to get a lot of fishermen out to Orlando, or is that like just something that they just did because somebody at Disney liked fishing?
Yeah, no. So honestly, like one of the biggest trade shows in fishing every year is called ICAST, and it's in Orlando. So I go down to every Orlando in July, which is a beautiful time to be in Florida.
Sure, nice, hot and humid.
100% humidity. But so Florida is like there's little ponds everywhere, and all of these ponds have bass in them, like just naturally because of the sewer system and everything. So it's natural for people to like find these little ponds to fish in. So I think Disney probably just recognized that, and they knew these guys wanted to fish. I'm sure like one of the athletes put in a request, and they're like, sure, we can stock whatever fish in this pond for you because it's super easy. Fishing is such a big part of Florida's economy, and so they probably have a pretty strong local like DNR or whatever. So yeah, it's pretty like even when we go down for trade shows, we're going to all these little ponds like after the trade show to like, you know, employees like go fishing and stuff. So it's pretty common for people to do that.
Yeah. What are you doing now with trade shows? I would imagine being postponed. Are there virtual trade shows or things like that going on?
Yeah. So ICAST was in July. It was completely virtual. I wasn't super involved in it. My team kind of ran it. Yeah, it's hard to do. I mean, you lose a lot of the value. It's cool to like still have some of the FaceTime, but really the value I've always found in trade shows is getting FaceTime with partners, especially because, you know, there's companies we've been working with at this point for 5 or 6 years, and we go way back with some of the other, you know, CEOs or whatever it is. And it's always good for me just to grab FaceTime and catch up and see how things are going and build those relationships. So that's like the hardest part. So, there was a trade show we were at in March called the Bassmaster Classic, which is the fishing tournament that you see on TV, but they have a trade show at the same time. And it's the biggest consumer show in fishing. It was literally the week before like everything got shut down in the country. We were debating, should we go, should we not go? And it was kind of before everyone knew what this was about to turn into.
Right.
So we went. And so like the first week of, I think it was like the last week of February, the first week of March, I was there, and then we got back, and then it was like, wow, everything started shutting down. It was probably one of the last trade shows in the country that wasn't shut down.
It's crazy.
It's been wild. Yeah.
It's been wild, but it's very cool for you that a lot of people have taken to fishing and it's helped your business, which is amazing. But, you know, if you've never been fishing or have no idea how to do it, like, where do you start?
I mean, it's a great question. It's a really hard sport to get into. People have so many questions. You know, what gear do I need to buy? Where do I go to fish? How do I use it? How do I take the fish off the hook? Like there's literally a dozen questions, if not more, that someone will have the first time they go fishing. And it's intimidating. And the best way to do it is to go with someone who's done it before, but that's not always an option. And I think for us, you know, that's a big gap in the market right now. There's not, you know, Walmart has a lot of like starter kits, or Dick's Sporting Goods will have some starter kits. A lot of the ones that are out there today aren't the best quality, or they still require a lot of know-how to use the gear. Yeah. So YouTube is always a great resource. I mean, when I was getting into bass fishing back in like the early, 2010 to 2011, YouTube was pretty early, but I learned a lot of what I know now from YouTube. We see this as a big opportunity for our company right now. We're starting to think a lot about how do we simplify the experience for the first-time angler. And so we're doing a lot of work on like content development and product development, but it certainly is intimidating. But that's the best place to start, is like get a small combo in Walmart or Dick's or on Amazon, and go to YouTube and see what you can figure out.
I remember as a kid going with, I went to I think it was with Apache Day Camp, and we went to um, the trout farm. It's
Oh, Julian or something like that. Lake Julian.
no, it was in God, it was on Gulf Road actually,
Oh,
right
I've
near
heard of that.
294.
I heard about this.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it's just an open piece of land now. But I remember like they had trout and they had catfish, and you basically just throw it in and you get a fish, and they would clean it up and everything for you. And personally, I don't eat fish; I'm vegetarian. But I went and it was interesting. But I think that's like an easy way. But now I see like people fishing in the Chicago River. Like if you go down by the bike path and you go close to Northeastern University, that's a huge place that people are fishing, or Montrose Harbor where you started. So you don't have to, if you're in the Chicagoland area, you don't have to go that far to find fish, right?
Yeah, I mean, near us in Skevinston, I mean, Skokie Lagoons is a 15-minute drive.
Yeah.
Lake Glenview is a 20-minute drive. There's Beck Lake, which is pretty close by. There's Axe Head Lake on Tui. There's probably 5 or 6 options that are within 25 minutes of us. Now, the fishing isn't always great at these lakes because they're kind of in relatively urban areas where there's a lot of population. They get fished a lot, but these are places I'll go when I have 20 minutes to sneak away, a 20-minute drive for a couple hours. I'll do that. But ideally, if I'm like going to plan a day trip, I'll go like to Wisconsin or somewhere where I know there's going to be like really good fishing. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, but if you're taking your kids out, I mean, even Lovelace Park, right, is super close to us in Evanston. People will catch bluegill there with their kids and stuff. So there's certainly options out there for people who want to fish in the area.
Yeah, there definitely are. Well, it's a great opportunity for people to be outside and be able to be with their family and feel safe, where you're not going to be in a type of environment where maybe you can pick up COVID. So it's definitely something to take advantage of. I think there's some silver linings to this, and taking advantage of the outdoors and learning more about that if you can. Like, this is the time to do it. Where can people go to find where to buy your products and learn more about all the different companies?
Yeah, we have a lot of different websites. So if you go to CatchCo.com, that's like the parent website. It'll show you all the different brands that we have created and links to some of those. But MysteryTackleBox.com is our subscription. CarlsBaitandTackle.com is our e-commerce site. Definitely the CatchCo YouTube channel has some of the content I told you about for Uncharted, or you can look it up on Amazon Prime. But yeah, CatchCo.com is probably the easiest place to just see all the different stuff that we're working on.
And I mean, if people want to follow you guys on social media, go to CatchCo or go to all the individual.
Yeah, I mean, Instagram is kind of like our biggest platform right now. We have a CatchCo account, a Mystery Tackle Box account, and a Carl's account. They all have a little bit of different content if you want to like just see kind of the different type of stuff we do. We have a LinkedIn company page for CatchCo that I've been actually more active on professionally if people are kind of curious to learn more about the industry. And then our TikTok is a new thing for us, but it's growing really fast. We have the CatchCo TikTok account that if you're into that sort of thing, I don't know where your audience demographics are. Yeah. Tell your kids about our TikTok account.
Exactly. Well, hopefully you can still access it.
Yeah, seriously.
Next couple of weeks. Well, this is so cool. What do you want to leave the listeners with? Like what's the main point that they should take away?
Yeah, you gave me a heads up on this question. I was thinking about it. I felt there was a lot of pressure on this one. You put a lot of weight on my shoulders.
Don't worry.
Yeah, I guess I would say if you've never been fishing, now is as good a time as ever to give it a shot, to just connect with the outdoors in a different way, clear your headspace, and spend some great time with your family and friends.
Well, I think that's a great message to end on. And Ross, I really appreciate you being on the show, and thank you for what you're doing.
Thank you for having me. It was awesome.
Thanks for listening to this latest episode of Inside the Skev. Don't forget to subscribe so you always catch the next episode. Share it with your friends, share it on social media, and enjoy.